Hi everybody, today I'm going to show you a new concept from Gadgetman Labs. Now we know that the Gadgetman groove has the engines have some considerations that must be looked at in order to make the Gadgetman groove more effective. The main thing being vacuum leaks. A vacuum leak will kill the benefits of the Gadgetman groove, period, end of discussion. Depending on how bad the leak is, that's how much it will affect it. I have seen vehicles lose mileage that had a substantial vacuum leak in it, so we already know about that. That's lesson number one. Vacuum will kill the Gadgetman groove. Well, in my applications of the groove, I got to considering, the most obvious place to put it is in the throttle body. But the vacuum leaks in certain electronic components like the MAP sensor, the manifold absolute pressure sensor, it's a pressure sensor. So since the pressure drops in the intake manifold, it also goes up. What goes up must come down, right? What goes down must come up. So the lows are lower, but the highs are higher. And some of the MAP sensor systems, the electronics, have such a high sampling rate. And as the device is designed to pick up the high pressure inside the intake manifold, some systems excuse me, some electronic systems respond unkindly with erratic results on the mileage. One guy did a 2000 Buick LeSabre, went from, he was cruising at about 26, 28 was his best ever. His first tank after the groove went to 66 miles to the gallon. Well, that's cool, right? Well, the second tank had dropped to 14. Then it bounced up to 30-something, then it bounced down to 16, then it bounced up, and it finally settled in somewhere around 22 miles to the gallon, which was not good. But that was because of the action of the MAP sensor in the system. So I designed a circuit, we call it the Mapster, that smooths out those high and lows that the Gadgetman groove creates, so they get a more static signal in the ECU, so it knows what to do about it. So anyway, I got to thinking, the closer to the valve that the throttle body is, the better the results on the engine. These long runners and stuff, everything that the Gadgetman groove does is it creates the amplified waveform. But it's a wave, so anything that wave touches will break it down. That's why intake systems with baffles, not good, because the baffle chops the wave up and breaks it down into smaller particles. Well, we need that wave to be at maximum force at the intake valve. So I thought, well, why don't I just make something to go in the intake valve? So here's the drawing, right? Normally, the Gadgetman groove goes here in the throttle body. Now, on your intake manifold, you have vacuum ports and all this stuff that's feeding your climate control. It's feeding your brake booster. It's feeding, a lot of cars have the modulator valve that's attached to the intake, the MAP sensor, of course, and various other vacuum ports all over this system. So what I want to do is I want to move the groove from this location to the valve. So I've been waiting for the opportunity to do this, and Sunday, which was 3 days ago, this is Tuesday, October the 1st, I believe, or October the 2nd. Anyway, it's Tuesday. And so Sunday, I got a wild hair at my butt and started doing research on casting molds and things like that, and how to protect it. So then I developed a system to actually to do what I wanted to do, which was create the castings for a head. Well, since I just bought a 69 GMC 3500 motorhome, it's got a 400 powerhouse in it and a small block 400, and I was having some valve issues that I couldn't correct with my normal treatments. And as I'm about to embark on a 6,000 to 12,000 mile trip, I wanted to be sure that the engine was in top-notch shape. So I pulled the heads and put them into the shop. 2 days in an acid bath, and they're still dirty in the ports. But yeah, anyway, what I want to show you is the results. Here is one of the heads off of the 400. Okay, there you go. All right, so you guys can see the numbers. You can look it up yourself. All right, let's see, where are they? There's that all. Now there's GM10. There's another CONV3, the time of day that it was made, blah, blah, blah. There's the configuration. They use this as the identifier for the heads. This is, about to fall off on the floor if I ain't careful. But they use this pattern here. This is different on every casting of the head. So I was not able to find that particular configuration. But the casting number, which is this number right here, 3973493, or 3493, excuse me, C26/7, is what you'll tell the date and all that stuff is right there. The C28 is supposed to be the day, the month code, and then the day of the month. C will be March the 28th of 77. So I guess that settles the issue. I was wondering about the date that these were manufactured. My engine. Now I want you to look. As you can see, some of this rosin, well, I've already poured this head, all right? So some of the rosin slipped down here and made it into this bolt hole, so I'll clear that out. But that's what happens if you don't do it right, okay? And see, you can see some more down here around this. See this rag? The reason this rag is here is because it's embedded with rosin and it's attached to the head. So I'll be taking that off before I install it, all right? But it's definitely stuck. Well, realizing that the rosin I'm using sticks, because that's what it's used for. The actual rosin that I'm using, or the epoxy I'm using, is the stuff they actually use to coat bars with. Now, Ace Hardware has everything you need on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it's called. Now, this is about a $100 batch, but I don't mess around. I make sure I've got enough to do the job with. This is a gallon. I think it was $93 for both the hardener and the rosin. The other one is right down there. As you can see, the words are rather hard to read. So, but there it is, 1-to-1 polymer coating. Okay, this is the hardener. So went down to Ace, found the epoxy I wanted. I got some mixing bowls. These were $1.29 each. You need to have at least 3 of these to do the job, and I would suggest that you get 5. That's what I did. So I made sure that if I messed one of them up, which I did, that I would still have enough to do the job with. And on the sides, there's the number of ounces. Okay, the number of parts that you're mixing. So you're mixing this 1-to-1, but there is an ounce scale right there. Make sure you guys can see it really clearly. Okay. All right. Now, to see what I was doing. Now, first of all, do some research on YouTube about making molds, and you'll learn what I learned. Some shortcuts, some ways to stop the stuff from sticking. Paste wax. Okay. This they also had in the paint section. All right, that's where I found the epoxy too. All right, what you do is you just take your finger, is what I used, and I just rubbed it on the walls really well before I started this process. Then I took a roll. Actually, in the camper there was 3 rolls of this stuff. Now you can see there's another roll over there. Okay, but what I did is, since this comes off in a roll, that means it can also come out. So what I did was, you see here in this intake port, because the plugs are going to be right here. This is where we want it to be. They're configured in such a way that the port shrinks. It speeds up the air. You can see how it gets narrower there, and then it expands out by the valve chamber. So this is a perfect design to put the plugs in, because they can't go anywhere. This resin is hard. Here, let me show you. There was a mess up. I let it sit too long. But listen, that is not going to be pulled into the intake ports at all. Okay, that broke because I was trying to remove it from my screw up. Anyway, so I removed the valves, which requires a valve spring compressor, such as this right here. Okay, very simple operation. You just put it over the spring, clamp it down, and then screw this into place. Okay, as you screw it down, it lifts the spring, and you can take out the retainer clips. Oh yeah, I'm dropping my thingies. All right, now you see this is number 3. So that's the one for that port right there. See how nicely that fits in there? And you can't push that through, okay? Anyway, that's the results of my efforts. Push it up just a second here. Bear with me for just a minute while I poke it out of there, if I can. Get my finger up there to it. No, that won't work. So we use chopstick. Oh, come on. Goodness, come on out of there, baby. Did I totally mess up? No, there it is. All right, I know you had a fun time looking at that light bulb, didn't you? All right, so anyway, these heads are wonderful. These are the best of the lightweight heads, according to everything I read on the market. But like you see, this is my casting plug. All right, now to get this product, of course, this is going to be, I'm going to sand this off the bottom, make it nice and flat, and then I'm going to put a funnel in here that was set to receive the groove. So I'm going to drill that out. After I sand it down, I'm going to drill all that out of there, and then I'm going to cut the groove into it. And as you can see, perhaps, that's been all the way around here. Okay, There, you can see very clearly the funnel that I used, the funnel shape. Well, the funnels are at Ace Hardware too. This is not a plug for Ace, but you need to know where to get your tools at. There's the funnels. Now these were a nickel a piece, just simple paper funnels. So I bought 20 of them. These mixing bowls were $1.29 each. I bought 5. I bought this there also, and bought my paste wax. Now, you're going to need to use one other thing too in order to make sure that your rosin doesn't get down into the plastic, and we're going to cover that right now. I'm not going to show you the technique, but you'll be able to figure it out. What you do is you're going to use rubbing alcohol. Okay, it's 91% isopropyl. That's what I use. I prefer using the strong stuff. And you're going to use dishwashing liquid. Don't buy the cheap stuff, guys, because you're wasting your time. You want the nice, thick, soapy soap, because you're going to be using this to protect your hands, and you also will be massaging this mixture into a 100% pure silicone. Okay, see, all of this was at Ace Hardware. Even this handle was at Ace. Okay, so you can buy everything you need in one stop to do this process. So you take a bowl with what you can see from my mixing. I still have silicone in the bottom of it, and it'll come out as soon as it dries. But this is by doing this, you're making a mixture that will dry a lot faster once you put it into use. And it's perfectly removable. All right, it just peels right away from the metal. So you fill your bowl up with water, and you put in a generous portion of this. Well, you know, generous. We're only going to be filling up using maybe 1 ounce per intake port. So you know, make 6 or 7 ounces. It's not that expensive. It was like $7 for that. So it's worth it. Just go ahead and make a big ball. You know, I used a handful. Okay, just a handful of it, and it would have been a round ball that fit in my hand, so twice that size. Squeeze it in there, and then what you do is you coat your hands with this mixture. And I was recommended to use a 50% alcohol, 50% soap mix, but I think the results would be a little bit better had I used more soap rather than less. So I'm going to recommend you guys try, say, a 60% soap mixture with the alcohol, and see what happens. And if you like that, try 70%. Hopefully you're only going to do this once. All right. So what you do is you take the silicone and you're putting it into a bed of water. So then you take and you start kneading it like dough. And every time it starts to stick to your hands, you put on another splash of the Dawn mixture, the soap alcohol mix. And then you're massaging that mixture into the silicone. And what that's going to do is you're going to notice that the silicone, if you use a blue soap, it will start to turn a little light tint of blue. That means that you're almost done. All right, so at that point, you come back in here. Now, you will have already had your head prepared. I'll show you what it looked like with my stuff. Okay. What I did was I took the Rollo Handy Wrap and I just pushed it up inside these holes. Now, I put one in there. So now, see, look, this is how much it takes to fill up one cylinder. Okay. And just to give you an idea, you know, this is like 9 feet. Well, yeah, 8 feet anyway of saran wrap. That's what I call it. Anyway, but so what you do is you shove this up in here. Now I've left about, once you get it up in there, you can push it back down. You want about a quarter of an inch or half an inch beyond from the top, from the surface, because what you're looking for is a 1-inch plug. You see this? This is my result. All right, 1 inch thick, about 1 digit is 1 inch, roughly. So you take that Minwax after you fill the hole up with the plastic, and you dip your finger in there, and you just take a good rub, and you rub it all the way around. If there's any divots in there, you'll want to fill them with the wax so that your resin doesn't have something to grab onto and where you can never pull it out. You've got to be able to pull these things out in order to work on them. All right, now, part of what we needed was the funnels, right? Because we need the conical shape to reproduce the effects of the Gadgetman groove. So I took funnels and I cut them down to about here, you know, where they're manageable, because we're only going to put them in there that far. All right, that's the shape that we're going to be looking for into which to machine the groove. Okay, so Then you take your silicone mix after you've filled this up with plastic, and you fill it up to the level that you want it, which would be about 1 inch of silicone. You've got it. It's not going to stick because of the min wax, okay, the paste wax, whatever you use. And so then on top of the silicone, you're going to be making your rosin mix. Now I want to show you this stuff is really tough, okay? Okay, so there's no doubt that this is going to stay right where it's put because of a couple of factors. Number one, it's hard, so it's not going to be flexible. That's hard. Now, the second thing is if you look down at the ports, you'll see, let me see if I can put a light on there, make it easier for you. Actually, it might be better if I put the light up from the bottom. You can see how the intake port narrows. Right, you know, right here it gets narrower, and that will stop. There's no way in hell that plug is going to go back in there beyond where it was cast for. The same thing with this one, same thing with this one, and same thing with this one. Let me see, put a little bit of light down on there, okay, so you can see it better. You see that bulge? That will stop the rosin from going anywhere. Now that you've got your intake ports prepared, you've got the silicone in there to stop the rosin from going any further and going down and maybe contaminating your valve chamber. You smear it out there generously. Then you got to make your funnels up. So here's what I did, and if you look, you'll see some RTV inside that. That RTV should be allowed to dry. What you do is just put a little daub in the end of the cone, or the end of the funnel down here, right? Put it in from the inside, and what that does is it stops the rosin from coming upside the funnel. Okay, you don't want it to come up the funnel because then your funnel will become a permanent part of your plug. We don't want that. We want that to be absolutely open at the bottom. There's one right there that worked out perfectly. You can see that. That's rubber. That's silicone rubber. See it here? Okay. So you can see that I'm in there pulling it out. I did have a little bit of leakage on one or two of them. That is actually rubber also. But this one here is not rubber. That is rosin. Okay, so I have to sand this plug down to the 1 inch, the desired 1 inch, and that will open up that hole. Okay, you see it? Okay. Now, as you also notice that there is a mark on this that says 3. That plug will fit right into this hole. Sorry. What I did was I labeled them L1. So that would be the first port. Slide it down in there. If I can get it in there. Actually, I think I labeled that one wrong. I apparently did. That's L2. Okay. Is this the L1? That says 4, so it probably is 4. But it only fit in one port. Okay. So there. You see it plugs right in there. So I pour the rosin into the hole. Then I insert my trimmed down funnel with a plug in the end of it with dried silicone. Please make sure it's dry. It dries in the right shape. So all you do is just collapse your funnel just a little bit, and then put the silicone down the bottom of it. That's all. Okay. You push that down in there. Then what I did was I set a weight on top of it, which is a busted. Let's see the self-release down there at the bottom. That's gone. This is one of the Duralast specialty extensions that I had. Anyway, but the ring came off of it. So anyway, I just set this across the funnels, balance the pressure out to where it would keep them weighted down to the silicone that's down the bottom. So you have a nice cushy bed for the bottom of the funnel to set on, and then so that when you pour your resin around it, and all I did was I used a funnel with, I just folded the end over on it, just like this. Let's see here. Sit this down here. Sit down just like that. Okay. So what I did is I just took the funnel and I just folded it over just like it is. Then I took a spoon or simply poured some of the epoxy into it. And then when I went to do the pour, I just took this, flattened it out, and poured it right around it. Okay, so you can see very easy how easily that is. You just pour it in there until it's full, and you want it above the level of the head, just slightly. Just you can see it's hitting that. So when you get done with that, again, what you do is you take your silicone caulk and run a bead right down through here, and right across through here to keep the rosin from dropping into any of the working areas. Because if you mess that up, you're going to be chiseling epoxy like I am. You can see there's some right here, okay, that I have to take off of there. But that's because I didn't do the setup properly. The first time is always the toughest. That's when you learn the most, okay? But you can see it just comes off of there. Little knife, that's all you need. But here's a spot where I just stuck a rag up there and then I forgot about it. All I was concerned about was I was getting a drip down here. Maybe you can see you see the reflection of the rosin there? It went down here. On the other side, you can see where the runners are. I know you can see that, right? You can see the streams of the rosin, okay? So, and it run down here and it got in my little cylinder head bolt passage. So what I got to do is clean that out. I'll just make sure that it's off of the top, and it didn't get all the way through here with the bolt hole, so we're in good shape. All right. Anyway, so now you got your casting made, guys. The results are very clear. This is what you wind up with. And again, I mislabeled number 1, number 2, but then when you pull these plugs out, you should try to get them within 24 hours. And what you do is when you're ready to remove them, you just take this saran wrap, and you just pull it out. Then what you'll be left with is a silicone plug in the bottom, okay? What you do is, while this stuff is still flexible, you can do this. It actually takes about 36 hours in my temperature, which is around 70 degrees, to harden completely. So at about 24 hours, I went in, while it was still slightly flexible, I pushed it away from the walls, and then pushed up from the bottom of this with the chopsticks. You see, you get these all the time. I love Chinese food and sushi. Anyway, so you could just reach it from the inside, just shove this stick up the intake port and push on the plug from the bottom. Okay, when you do that, once you get it broken loose from the sides, then you just lift the plug out and see if I can't get to it. Try it anyway. Let's see. Sit down here. Maybe you guys can see it. Well, here. There we go. Now you guys can see the whole operation, I think. All right. So just lean the head back. Well, I've got to get my block up from underneath it. Lean the head back, and then take your chopstick up underneath there and push it from the bottom up. Well, just push it, right? There. See how, since I had these prepared, of course, they came out a whole lot easier for me. Oh, here is some of the silicone plugs that you're left with. When you pull those plugs out, what you're going to wind up with is this is the silicone. You can see I used a lot of it on this. You'll just reach in there and you can just push the silicone right out and grab it, and just whatever's left on the walls, just peel it off with your fingers and you're good to go. And I dropped my tape. Oh, goodness. All right, there we go. And my little sticky thing. Yeah, I'm a mess when I'm getting to work, but the results are very clear. Now we have the core into which we will be placing the Gadgetman groove. Okay, so guys, if you want to take castings of your heads and send them to me, that would be marvelous. I'd really appreciate it. And I promise you what we're going to be doing. I'll need the casting numbers off of your heads. Here's some more of the numbers off of this one. Okay, you can see that. Here's another one. Okay, so but those numbers are all relevant. So I will be able to produce these plugs for all of these engines. Let me give you the rest of the casting numbers again. Oh, golly. Okay, so here's the casting numbers. All right, 397, 34, 93, C28/7, so this is a 77 head, GM10. There's the date, and CONV. Was it 3? Sorry, CONV 3. All right. There's the pattern, the identifier on the end of the head. And these are 400s. All right. The best of the lightweights headers, so I'm told. So in any event, Gadgetman's been working, and I want y'all to do some work too. God bless y'all richly and warmly. Have fun experimenting, and as always, remember to smile for a stranger today. You will both be glad you did. Bye-bye.